think Supergirl will?
Supergirl is not a god. I am! This is where you pucker up and kiss my ass.
Now listen,
you listen to me, you son of a bitch! Come on! Give it to me! You got it, baby! I loved her because she wasn't you.
Good afternoon. Special Agent Gibbs, right? Quinn Crawford.
Yes, sir.
I just got done talking about your team with SecNav. She had quite a few stories about you. All good.
Not until I brought you all together.
Come here.
Age 'em older every life. Every day is a danger. It's just life. They're in the one place on Earth that is not of Earth. What do you want?
We want to know where Crowley is.
If I even knew, why would I tell you?
Because you're a grandfather.
Samuel, I'm gonna get my soul back. Who says you can get it back? Me.
There's no place I can't find you.
That's where you're wrong.
No more Mr. Nice Guy.
Hey everybody, welcome to another Full Empire Promotions live Q&A. I'm Dominic Mancini. I'll be your host for the special Q&A with Mitch Pileggi. We're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube, so thanks so much to everyone who's watching. If you'd like to ask any questions or leave any comments for Mitch, please feel free to do so. We'll get to those during the broadcast if time allows. Following this Q&A, Mitch will be doing video meet and greets on Zoom. So if you're interested in having your own conversation with Mitch, you can go to www.fullempirepromotions.com to book your Zoom sessions. Autographs and video greetings are also available. Well, it's time to bring on our special guest. You may know him from The X-Files, Supernatural, Sons of Anarchy, my personal favorite, Shocker, Stargate Atlantis, Dallas, and most recently, NCIS, American Horror Story, and Supergirl. Let's welcome the incredibly talented, often plays a hard ass on TV, but it's a teddy bear in real life, Mitch Pileggi. Hey, Mitch.
Such a teddy bear.
You're a teddy bear.
Yeah.
So we're live now on Facebook and YouTube.
Hey,
we've got quite a bit of people watching now. Some questions coming in. So how are you doing in your part of the world?
I'm good. Like I was saying, we just we leased a place just to get out of the house. So we got this really nice place that we're staying at for a bit, and just for a change of scenery. So everything's good, you know.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Looking forward to going back to work soon.
Man, I'm so looking forward to going back to work. We're waiting for things to open back up in Texas, for things to settle down, for Jared to go back up and finish Supernatural, and then they're talking about we'll start production on Walker in they're saying maybe the end of September, which is okay with me because it's cooler. It's cooler in Austin
Yeah.
that time of year. So
Yeah, I know Texas has to be brutal now. The hot weather.
it's hot, man. It gets so hot and humid.
Yeah. So I want to start off with your background a little bit. You were born in Portland, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Did you grow up in Portland?
No, well, until I was about 7. We lived there till so my dad worked on DoD contracts with the military. So at 7, we moved to California, where he was working on an air base, Vandenberg Air Force Base. So we went down there, and then from there we went to Texas. His job took us kind of every 2 years we'd go someplace else in a new contract. So we went from California to Texas to Turkey, back to California, back to Turkey, and then ended up going to school in Germany, and then I went to work for the same company my dad did. And I was working in, I graduated from high school in Turkey, and then was working in Turkey for a little bit, then went to Saudi Arabia and was there for 3 years, and then I went to Iran.
You had an interesting experience on a plane, didn't you?
Yeah, it was very interesting. When I was in Iran when the revolution started, and they were evacuating us out, and they bussed us up to Tehran to catch our flights. And I had booked my own flight on Swiss Air. The company had booked everybody on Pan American. And I just instinct, just something was just off, and I thought, and I always liked flying Swiss Air anyway. So I went downtown. Very, very dangerous situation. We lived on a cantonment that had a flag system. When the green flag was up, it was okay to go into town. When the yellow flag was up, it was dicey. When the red flag was up, don't go out of your house, because it was pretty hot. But anyways, they bussed us up to Tehran, and I went up to the counter of the Swiss Air counter, and the guy was like, "Grab your bags, let's go," basically. So we carried our own bags out of the airplane. The plane took off with they hadn't fully fueled. Because of the situation, because of what was going on. So we got up in the air, and the pilots, we were actually supposed to refuel in Damascus, and there was a thunderstorm. They couldn't get down, so the pilot came on, and he made the announcement that it was literally what he said. He said, "We're going to try. We can't land in Damascus to refuel, so we're going to try to make it to Athens."
Jesus, wow!
And we did.
Yeah, the final destination.
Yeah, on fumes. It was pretty crazy.
Wow. So, was there a particular influence, either a person or an event you recall, that made you realize you wanted to pursue acting?
You know, I just after having worked in the Middle East for some time and just doing what I was doing, I decided I wanted to do something else. And I had done some acting in high school. So there was a woman that was my music teacher in high school who I played sports in high school. I played football and I wrestled, and I took a chorus class because my girlfriend and all of her friends were in it, and I thought it'd be an easy grade. So and I could just mess around as much as I wanted to. I didn't have to worry about. Well, anyway, so we were in class one day, and they were getting ready to do the musicals. And they were doing West Side Story, and all of a sudden she calls my name. I'm in the back, and we're in the bass section. All the football players were in the bass section. We just sit back there and screw around, be a bunch of jerk offs, and sorry. But anyway, I heard she called my name, and I was like, what? I'm looking around, and she told me to come up. She was sitting at the piano, and she said, "I understand you can sing," and I was like, "No, I can't sing." And she goes, "Well, Debbie, my girlfriend, future wife, first wife, told me that you can sing." So I said, "Well," she said, anyway, she wanted me to sing Maria, and she started playing, and she got about 2 bars in, and she just stopped. She goes, "You can sing," and I ended up playing Tony in West Side Story, which was a gas, and it was. Wow. So she got me. She really got me on stage and interested in doing it. As a matter of fact, we had gone in from football. It's soccer season, and I had to make the choice whether to play soccer or do the musical. And I thought, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try to do this acting thing, this sing and acting thing. So I did, and that was my first taste of it. And I fell in love with it. After high school, of course, I got away from it, as I explained, for a number of years. And then after Iran, I just didn't want to do what I was doing anymore, and I thought, you know what, I need to find something to do. And I was in California, and a friend of mine in Austin had said there's a lot of theater down there. Why don't you come down and do theater? So moved down to Austin and auditioned for a play, and I got a small part, a couple lines, and I got on stage, man, and I thought, this is what I want to do. So I was bit. First time I got a laugh or applause for anything, it was like a drug. And so I would say she was very, very, very. She just passed away recently. Marilyn Brown. At the time, her name was Marilyn Elmore, and we called her Missy. And I loved her dearly, and I kept in touch with her pretty much to the end. So I was shooting in Jacksonville at one point. She was living in North Carolina. This is about, I don't know, maybe about 8-9 years ago. And I drove up. I had a couple days off, so I drove up and saw her. So I'm very happy that I maintained contact with her, and she was huge in my life, and I adored her.
Oh, well, thank God she gave you the confidence to go up there and do it, because, we probably wouldn't know each other otherwise.
I know, right?
Had she seen a lot of your work over the years? Had she
No.
followed your?
Oh, you mean after? Yeah. She's so proud. It was like I went to her house and I went to visit her, and she had pictures of me all over from high school and even stuff that that I had done. She was so proud, and we went out to breakfast the next morning after I got in there, and we were in a restaurant, and these people came up to me, and they had recognized me, and she was in heaven. It was so sweet watching her reaction to that. Yeah, so it was a trip to be able to give her a little taste of this craziness.
Yeah, well, that's great that you were connected with her and got to kind of give her gratification for that and have some closure. Yeah. Did you watch films growing up? Were you a film fan?
Yeah, I was like, I could remember when I was a little boy. There was I think it was a Disney movie called Toby Tyler Runs Away to the Circus or something like that. And I thought, man, this looks so much fun doing what these people are doing. And it's funny because when I was doing Sons of Anarchy, the guy who played Toby Tyler in that movie was one of our producers.
No.
It was Kevin Corcoran.
Everything.
A lot of Disney stuff, but it was
Well, everything comes full circle.
No, right.
Well, one of your earliest films that you've mentioned to me a few times that left an impression on you was On the Line in 1984. You got to work with some greats like David Carradine and, of course, Scott Wilson. What was it like?
Wilson.
Yeah, what was it like being on set with those guys?
It was a trip. I mean, because I was pretty green. It was really one of the first movies that I did, and it was a decent role. I mean, not a huge role, but I was around a lot, and I got to be around Scott a lot. It was when I ran back into Scott later on doing the conventions, I got to spend more time with him and reconnect, and it was fun to be able to talk to him about those times, and he was huge in what I learned so much from watching him on the set, how he carried himself, how he handled himself, how he did it, went into a scene, and so it was like going to school watching him.
Yeah, it really was.
And then to be able to reconnect to him with him so many years later was, he did as a matter of fact, he did an episode of the X-Files, and I ran into him, and he was like so sweet and so kind. He goes, he said, I'm so proud of you, and he goes, I knew this was going to happen for you. And I was like, Scott was the best. I loved him.
Yeah, and ironically, his character name was Mitch on that movie.
No, right?
He was a great guy. I'm glad you guys were able to connect and have some fun. And again, full circle. So, but he was funny because I remember I said to him after you and I had first met, I said, "Yeah, you did that. Mitch did that movie." Or you did that movie with Mitch? And he says, no, Mitch did that movie with me. Said, okay, all right. But yeah, he was. Every aspect of Scott was like a course. He was just wise in everything. And
he was amazing. It was amazing to be around, and I'm so fortunate that I got to have that exposure to him early on in my career, and that I was also able to, like I say, reconnect with him later on, and spend a lot of good time with him.
Yeah. Did you connect with David Carradine much on that film? No. So you did 3 O'Clock High in 1987, which would start the trend of you playing villains. It seemed like you had fun playing that role, which his character name was Duke. Did you?
The Duker. It was fun. It was we shot it in Utah, in Ogden, Utah, and it was a great group of people. And it was a fun character. He was like a security guy. He was like a thug, and he was a bully, and and then at the end he gets his just desserts. He gets smashed in the face by Buddy Revell. And it's funny because when he hit me, anyway, when the character hit me in that scene, he actually hit me. And it's like I went down, and he was like, "Oh my god, I hit him!" Richard Tyson. I'm so sorry. Richard Tyson played the character, and he hit me, and he was like so upset that he connected, and I was like, "Dude, it probably looked great."
So, did you approach that role with like a comedic kind of vibe? Because he kind of came off in the middle of being comedy and serious.
Wouldn't know the difference. At that point in my career, I wouldn't know the difference between comedy and drama. I was trying to remember my lines and say them, and give it as much truth as I possibly could at that point.
Yeah, well, you did a great job. I mean, it seemed like I said, you kind of walked the fine line between making them larger than life and kind of a spoof of a bully. So
Yeah.
you did a good job.
Yeah,
with
well,
that.
they actually had there was a part of it because I don't know if you'll notice there was like looked like a big clump of chaw in my cheek because I always had this, and that was one of the things of the character that they wanted, that he was always chewing tobacco. And then at one point where I grabbed the kid, he says something, and I look at him, and I spit the stuff on his shoe. They cut it out. I don't know why. I guess it didn't work or something. But yeah. So if people go, why does his cheek look like that? Or why does he look like a chipmunk? That's why.
I thought maybe it was after he punched you. Maybe he had some swelling, and then they had to do a reshoot.
No, it was a big wad of bubble gum, I think.
Yeah. Well, your role in 1989 as Horace Pinker on Wes Craven's Shocker was how I was introduced to you, and that's still my favorite role of yours. Do you remember auditioning for this? Was Wes Craven there?
He was there. Yeah, I as a matter of fact, when I auditioned for it, Gary Zuckerbrod was doing the casting, and he had called me in for one of the other characters for the coach. And I walked in this room, and he goes, I had no idea that Wes was involved, or that it was, that he was director. I didn't know that I hadn't heard his name at all. Mm-hmm. So I walked in the room, and Gary goes, "This is Wes Craven," and I was like, "Okay." And Marianne Madalena, who was his partner at the time, was in the room also. And so I did the scene for the coach, and left. And then I got a call from my agent, and they said they wanted me to come back in and read for the lead for the killer, for Horace. And I was like, okay, that sounded great. And so I went in and I did it, and I guess I did it well enough that they gave me the job. I scared the shit out of Marianne, I know that. She actually literally got up and walked, moved to the other side of the room. But yeah, I just pulled out. I kicked out all the jams on that. I went full bore ape shit, and and he liked it. He liked what I did, so he hired me. And I once again was like, man, I'll tell you what. There's two people that are really responsible for my career. One of them is Wes Craven, and of course the other one is Chris Carter. So yeah. I love them both a lot. And I tell Chris that every time. Thank you for my career.
Yeah. I've heard Wes was like very professory. Like he didn't seem like a guy that would make scary films.
No, I mean he was a professor at one point, and he. But it just was like he'd get on set and he had the most insane sense of humor, and he would. I'd be doing, and I'd be in full Pinker mode, and he'd be throwing me these lines off camera, and I was like, one time I stopped, I was like, I think it was finger looking good. I said, oh my God, Wes, I can't say that, and he goes, no, you can say it, it'll be great.
And that's the line that you get asked to sign the most.
I do.
Sign autograph, so.
Finger looking good.
And I understand that his original idea was to make a franchise out of that, do a bunch of sequels.
I think it was his plan to turn it into a franchise. It didn't translate, unfortunately. It's one of the few things I think that he did that really didn't cut it. So I don't know. We had some problems with. There were a few problems with the special effects stuff, but the way it ended up, and now when people look at it, they love the cheesiness of the special effects and just a lot of the stuff that transpired. But I had so much fun playing that character and doing that movie. I have a hard time watching it because my performance is so friggin' over the top. But but I had a great time doing it.
Yeah, it works though. I mean, I think in a way it was ahead of its time. You know, with the effects and the.
Pete Berg was in the execution scene. They were in the gallery. He and Michael Murphy, who played his he found out his foster father.
Mm-hmm.
But Pete told me at one point I was doing my crazy shit, and he said that Michael turned to me at one point and he goes, "Jesus, he really gets into this shit."
Well, it's too bad the franchise didn't work because we could have been on Shocker 15 now, where Horace Pinker invade your Zoom chat.
Yeah,
Killed you in the Zoom chat. Well, over the next few years, you'd appear as tough guys on popular TV shows like Falcon Crest, Dragnet, and Dallas. Along those shows, you worked with a lot of other great actors. Did you feel you were being locked into a TV actor at that point?
Yeah, I didn't care.
You were just happy to work.
I mean, film's hard to get into, and I was working a lot. I've had a good career in TV,
Yeah.
and I've done a few flicks. But I didn't have any qualms about whether I was doing TV or whether I was doing film. I just I was very appreciative of the fact that I had a career. I was one of the lucky people that really was really able to make a living doing this.
Yeah. Well, I know back then it was kind of one or the other. I remember actors talking about it, saying, in the 80s and 90s, you either did TV or film. Now it's like, everybody wants to do TV.
Yeah. I mean, I did that movie with Al Pacino, and he was getting ready to do Hunters. And he was really nervous about it because he hadn't done it. He'd never done any TV, and he was asking me, he was grilling me about TV. He goes, "What's it like?" And I said, you do a lot more pages a day than you do on film, but so it was interesting having somebody like Al Pacino asking me about TV.
Wow. Well, in 1992, you worked with one of my favorite directors, Paul Verhoeven. You had a part in Basic Instinct. Had you seen any of his prior films before you got hired to do that?
I'm sure I had. And I knew who he was, and it was really interesting meeting with him. And I don't even know if I really read much for him. I think we just talked, just chatted, and I ended up doing it. It was. I was not in the scene with Sharon Stone. I was not in the interrogation scene.
I was going to ask you that next.
Interrogation scene with Michael Douglas, and he kept crossing his legs, and I'm crossing. I said, "Dude, it ain't working." He didn't really. I'm kidding. But no, and it was, and at one point I had this scene where I had to grab Douglas and shove a gun into his face, and I put it up close to his face, and he jerked, and the barrel was sharp, and it actually sliced his face. And I was like, "Oh my God. I fired."
Wow. So they filmed her scene separate and then edited it in post. So they filmed that famous scene with her separately and then edited it together in post.
No, I wasn't in the room, and my character wasn't in the room for that.
Oh, that's right. You were in the interrogation scene. That's right.
Yeah, with him.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen it. I guess I can't imagine the reactions when people read the script with that scene in it.
Yeah.
It was by 1992. It was kind of, we hadn't seen much of that yet. Now it would be like no big deal.
Well, no, I think it would be a big deal now.
Yeah. Well, 1994.
I don't think it would happen now.
Yeah, you're right. It'd probably be censored now. Somebody would be offended by something now. In 1994, you stepped into the role as Walter Skinner, which most people know you from the X-Files. Do you remember how you were approached for that role?
Well, I had gone in and read for Chris twice for two other roles on the show, and at the time my head was shaved, and he just didn't see it for the show or for the characters. So I grew my hair back, not just because of that, but I just thought that I was being limited as far as what the roles that I could get. And I grew all my hair back, all of it, which was like, zzz.
Yeah.
And then they called me back into the X-Files. He called me back in to read again for another character, and I was like, well, he's seen me twice. So I finally relented, went in, and thank God. What a dumbass, even questioning whether or not to go in. But I did go back in, but I went in. When I went in, I was kind of had a surly attitude, and fortunately, it's what he wanted for the character, and it worked out.
Yeah, so you kind of skinnered him.
Either one of those two other roles, or else I never would have been available for Skinner.
Yeah, so you kind of skinnered him before you knew you were Skinner. You said, "You saw me twice, hire me." Well, I believe Skinner is one of the most underappreciated characters in the series. He's in a tough position. He's got to make a lot of tough decisions, and that aren't always popular ones. And he can't be everybody's best friend and do his job at the same time.
Yeah.
Do you
playing the dynamics of that character?
Yeah. Do you believe there's much of you in Skinner?
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of my dad in Skinner too, which I kind of, as I've said before, I didn't really intentionally, consciously put, strive to do that. It just kind of organically happened, and I didn't really realize it until I was watching an episode with my mom, and my dad had passed away before the show started, unfortunately, because he would have been in heaven.
I'm sure.
He would have been on the set every friggin' day. He'd love that stuff. But yeah, where was I going with that?
So your dad was a little bit of an influence on what you put into Skinner.
I was watching an episode with my mom and my brothers and my sister, and they were like going, "That's Dad," and I was like,
"Wow."
And then I realized I watched it because I watched my dad a lot when he was working. He he worked wore the white shirt and the tie and all that stuff, and I can remember and I was looking at my mannerisms as I sit at the desk, and I was like, oh my God, that's exactly the way Dad used to move his hands, the way he would sit, the way he would kind of lean back in a chair and look at somebody,
wow.
So even though I didn't do it intentionally, I'm honoring my dad with that.
Well, that's great. We'll look at Skinner differently now. Are there any particular episodes that stand out that you're most proud of? Do you remember shooting?
I mean, yeah, I was proud of being on the show. The scene that I think it was Paperclip. Bowman and I talk about this all the time because when he got the script and he got he saw the line, he called me immediately and he goes, "Oh man, where did you see this? Where did you see this scene?"
Sorry.
That's okay. I'll have a little lunch. No.
Yeah. No lights.
Oh,
yeah.
But where was I? I forgot.
You're talking about what Paperclip?
I'm getting CO for Christ's sake.
Yeah. No, we get interrupted there.
That's okay.
Yeah, you're talking about Paperclip.
Oh yeah. So he goes, "Where did you see this line?" And it was like, this is where you pucker up and kiss my ass line. So it was like I could say that to CSM. I was very happy.
Yeah, well, an episode that I liked recently that you were in was called Kitten in the latest season.
I was excited about that too. I was very happy that they gave that. Gave Skinner an episode to kind of you found out a lot more about his past, who he is, and why he is the way he is. And
your nephew played a younger version of Skinner, correct?
He did. Yeah, he sure did.
Was that your idea?
No. Well, I had tried. No, it wasn't my idea. I think it was there. He had gone in. It's funny because he went in and auditioned for 2 roles on the X-Files before he got that one, which is exactly what happened to me. But he had gone in twice before, and then I think that they had his eye. They knew that this episode was coming up. Gabe Rotter wrote, and I think that they kind of had it in mind to have him play that role. So he was very excited. It was very cool, and I was so happy that I was able to help him out with that.
Yeah, he did a good job, because
He did
he
a great job.
again,
He was so proud of him. Yeah.
yeah, because again, he kind of adapted some of your mannerisms,
Yeah.
So I got to meet him. I met him in Vancouver, right, when we were out there
Yeah.
at that con.
Yeah. He's great.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we see some more X Files and they can bring him back as another character if if it happens again. I don't know what the ramblings have been, but not thinking.
Yeah.
And speaking of family, you met your wife Orlean on the X Files. I know you've talked about this a lot, but for people who don't know, maybe you want to mention that.
I did. I met her. I met her third season. She was. I had never seen her. She was always on second unit. She was Jillian's photo double, and so she was her photo double from the very first episode. It was actually when Mulder's looking at Scully's back, and you see what you think it is Scully. It was actually Arlene. So it was from the get go. She worked on the show longer than I did, actually, or started sooner than I did. But third season, we were doing a scene in this restaurant, and Chris had asked Arlene to play a waitress in the scene. So I get to set, and I see this little redhead, because she kept her hair cut exactly like Jillian, cut and colored exactly like Jillian's. I see this little redhead in a waitress outfit, and I was like just thunderstruck. It was like a thunderbolt. And I said to David, I said, "Who is that?" And he goes, "That's Arlene." And I was like, I was smitten. and I think he says I didn't say this, but I do believe I said I'm going to marry her. And I think like 8 months later we got married.
Yeah, the truth was out there.
The truth was out there.
Well, again, hopefully we do see some X Files in the future. I know it's unlikely, especially now with everything being sidelined. But who knows, right? You never thought you'd come back to do another season a couple years ago, right?
No, but
well, we want to talk about Stargate Atlantis a little bit.
What's that?
I said I just wanted to move on to Stargate Atlantis.
Okay.
He worked alongside another great cast with Joe Flanagan, Jason Momoa, Jewel Staite, Robert Picardo, so many other great actors. Can you talk a little bit about coming onto the show and how receptive they were when you first?
They were great. It was they had contacted my agent and asked me to play this character, and I was like, yeah, anytime I get to go up to Vancouver to work on something, I'm there. 'Cause I love Vancouver, but
Me too.
it it sounded like fun. It was like it would be fun. So I got up there. Everybody was just they were incredibly receptive. It was pretty cool. And I had a spaceship.
You did. You did.
So cool. I mean, I love that set. It was like I had so much fun working on the ship and then interacting with them on the Atlantis sets too. It was a gas.
Was that all in sound stages? Did they do anything on location?
Everything that I did was on a sound stage. I don't think that I honestly don't know if they did anything on any kind of locations, but they had some pretty amazing sets built on, because I think they had two or three sound stages, and phenomenal sets.
No, it looks great. I mean, I've only seen a couple episodes of it, but it looks, the CGI looks really good.
Yeah, they did a really good job with it.
Yeah. Well, one of your most fandom roles is Samuel Campbell on Supernatural. I know it's not one of your favorites, but a lot of fans love it.
I didn't get him. I didn't understand him. And that's probably my fault for being lazy. But I just didn't. I couldn't figure out what was going on with where it was going. With the daughter and how he came back, where he had been. I was just confused. I probably should have asked more questions, but yeah.
Do you remember how you got involved in the series, and did you meet Jared Jensen?
Well, Kim Manners who was one of our director producers on the X-Files was running the show, and they had asked me, to come and do it, so I was very excited, and then I got there and I see these two young guys that are just like, I'm like, oh man, I don't want to stand next to them. I'm going to look like a troll. I'll look bad. They're going to make me look bad. I don't want to look bad. But I just hanging out with them, working with them for just the shortest amount of time from the gig. I was like, I think I took Jensen aside at one point. I said, I want to tell you something. You guys, both of you guys, have got your heads screwed on right, and just make every effort you can to make sure that it stays like that, because this business can really mess your head up, and but I was incredibly impressed by how they carried themselves, how they treated the crew, how they treated each other, how they just how the professionals. I mean, they're goofballs, but it's fun. It's fun goofiness, so it was being on the set and working with them and being around Kim for the short period that he was still around was it was a treat. It was a treat for me.
And you were back in Vancouver, right?
And back in Vancouver. It's one of the reasons I do this stuff, is just to be in situations like that and work with great people.
Yeah.
I was noticing in that clip that you did. I don't know. Were you going to ask about Dallas at all, or?
Yeah, I was going to get to it, but
well, that clip with where I have that scene with Judith Light, where I'm grabbing her,
yeah,
I push her away. I broke her arm.
Oh, geez.
And
Man.
because she's just a tiny little thing, and I was like, it just took the slightest push, and she just and here's how great and what a pro she is. She had a broken arm, and she did about 5 more takes, because I had to grab her arm. She was slapping my face, and I had to grab her arm, and so I had to grab that broken arm each time, and she was like, she didn't even wince.
Wow.
Didn't wince. And then I didn't even know her arm was broken at the time.
Wow.
Then I got to work the next day, and she went straight from the set, from us shooting that, straight to the hospital. She came back with a cast on her arm, and I just was like, oh my God! She didn't want to hear anything about it. She goes, no, it happened. It was, it happened.
Wow.
I loved Judith. I love her. She's amazing. And I feel so fortunate to have been able to work with her.
You feel fortunate to have broken her arm.
Yeah, man, I tell you what, I still think about that, and I cringe. It just makes me, ugh.
Well, yeah, it happens. I mean, you got punched in the jaw when you're early in your career, so
Yeah.
I guess it's method acting, right? It's a form of method acting.
I didn't want to hurt her, though.
No, of course not. But you played the role of Harris Ryland in the revival of Dallas, as you had mentioned. I've seen a few episodes of this, and it seemed like that's one of the roles you felt most connected with and had the most fun with. I know you talked about it a lot when we first met, saying you moved to Dallas to do it, and you got to work with, again, so many great actors. And you met Brenda Strong on that series.
I did.
Did you and Brenda audition together?
No. She
Wow,
had already. Yeah, I'm sure she was already cast. But no, I actually came on to that. I think it was just supposed to be recurring, and then they liked the character so much that they bumped it up. But I think they whatever. But it was the second time, because I had done Dallas, the last season of Dallas, back in the original incarnation of the show, and I got to do, like, I think 3 or 4 episodes with Larry, and so to be able to go back and work with him again and watch him work and was a real treat also. But I started out when I was living in Texas. I used to do. I would go up to Dallas when they would do the exteriors, because they shot everything in LA, the interiors, but they did a lot of the exteriors in Dallas, of course. And so I was living in Austin at the time, and I would drive up there and I would do background. And when I first met Linda Gray, on the second incarnation of the show, I said, she came up and she goes, "We're so happy, so excited, so happy to have you on this show." And I said, "Darlene, I used to stand behind you in crowd scenes when you guys were shooting back on, doing the original." And she was like, "Oh my God," she's so sweet. But it was great to be back in Texas. It was great to be working on Dallas and being around just once again. I've been so blessed. I've been around. I've always for the most part, had a great group of people to work with.
Yeah. Well, you and Brenda had such good on-screen chemistry. That's why I thought maybe you guys had auditioned together. But I think you're right. I think she came on before. But
I hadn't met her. And when Judith came on, her first day of playing my mother was the scene where Brenda shoots me in my house, and so Judith is she's in the makeup trailer, and she goes, "What's he like? What's Mitch like?" And I go, "Well, he's an asshole. He's the worst." And she got to set, and then she realized that I wasn't, of course. But we were shooting this scene. I'm laying on the ground, and she's walking over to her mark, and I'm laying there, and she kind of steps. She was wearing a skirt. She steps over me to get to her mark, and she looks down at me, and she goes, "Don't you look at my dress." That's Judith.
yeah, and from what I remember, you quit smoking while doing Dallas. You had a funny story from Patrick Duffy.
Patrick Duffy shamed me and then quit smoking. I was smoking like a chimney, and every day he'd come to set and he'd give me a hug and he'd go, "Oh boy, you just smell like cigarettes. You stink." And I was like, I was that kind of just was a slap in the face, and I thank him every day for saying that to me, because I immediately started vaping for a little bit, and that got me too much of a pain in the ass, and I just stopped doing that. So I don't nothing. Tobacco is no longer in my life. Hallelujah.
Yeah, well, that's why you look younger every time I see you. Either that or you're collecting souls somewhere. Yeah, well, I do want to mention Sons of Anarchy, one of your warmer characters that you played.
He was a sweetheart.
The racist Nazi drug dealer, Darby. This is the kind of guy that your characters you normally play would go after.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was when I went in and read for it. Kurt said, as soon as I sat down, he goes, "I'm a huge fan." I was like, that's like, to me, that's the kiss of death. Every time I go into an audition and somebody says, "I'm a huge fan of your work," blah, 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 don't get it. So as soon as he said that, I was like, okay, well, I might as well just get up and walk out, because I ain't getting this. Unfortunately, I did get it. And I got to work once again with a great group of guys, crazy group of guys. But it was a trip, and it was interesting playing that character because of the nature of who he was. And one of the things that I thought was so interesting, what Kurt did with the character towards, at the end, he ended up marrying this Latina girl, and I thought, this is brilliant. This is perfect. He obviously was just not as his whatever he was claiming to be. I don't think he was ever really a pure supremacist or Nazi. He just was. He was trying to find his place, he was trying to find a group to belong to, and he just picked the wrong group.
Was it refreshing to not have to play an authority figure in a suit?
Yeah.
Yeah, it must have been.
Yeah, it's always nice to get out of the suit. I hate wearing suits. I don't get paid to wear one, so it was interesting.
Well, as I said, he's the kind of character that most normal characters you play would be hunting. Be trying to get best.
Right. Yeah.
So, was Sutter on the set often? Did you get to spend much time with him?
I'd see him on occasion. We always did table reads before an episode. He was always there. Yeah. So, and he was always, it was always good to see him, and he was always very, very, very kind to me.
Yeah. Well, your character was one of the only ones that lived. So.
Yeah. Right. And I mean, let me tell you, Charlie Hunnam is as good as it gets. He's as good as he gets.
Good guy to work with.
Absolutely, in every respect. I mean, as far as who he is as a person, who he is as an actor, his professionalism. He's my experience being around Charlie was gold.
Yep. Well, recently I want to talk about two. Sorry, what was that, Mitch?
That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
It should be that way.
Yeah, I agree. The lead of the show should be setting an example for everybody.
Amen.
Well, I want to talk about two horror films you did recently that had kind of a horror photography theme. One was Polaroid, and the other one was Girl in the Photographs, which I believe are both available on Netflix now. Did you get to meet Oz Perkins when you did Girl in the Photographs? He was one of the writers.
Anyhow,
He's Anthony Perkins' son.
I may have. I probably did.
Yeah, I was just curious if you had met him or talked about his dad.
Quick in and out. I just had a little bit to do on that. So I honestly can't remember if I did or not.
And they were both shot in Canada, correct?
Yes, one was shot on Vancouver Island in Victoria, and that was also a Wes Craven. I think that was one of Wes's last, or if it may have been his last before he passed away. He was producing it. I didn't get to see him. We were texting to each other back and forth, but I didn't get to. I guess he was pretty sick at that time, and so I wasn't able to see him.
Yeah. Did you get to see either one of those films with like an audience at a premiere or anything?
I haven't seen either one of them at all.
No.
I haven't.
Yeah. Are you one of those actors that has a hard time watching yourself on TV?
Not if what I'm doing is good. If I don't think it's good, I can't watch it.
Yeah, I know I have some clients that don't want to see themselves at all, in anything, and then some, don't mind it.
Yeah, if I have any trepidation about whether or not my performance was decent, I probably won't watch it. Yeah.
Well, both of those look pretty good. Girl in the Photographs and Polaroid, they're both gaining kind of a cult following online, in the horror genre, and yeah, so they're both on Netflix. So
okay,
you might be hearing more about those. And I'll talk about a couple recent TV shows you were on. You'd recently been on NCIS, an American Horror Story, and currently you're doing Supergirl. Fans are pretty excited about that part of Rama Khan, the supervillain. Had you been aware of that character prior to being hired? Did you read any of the comics or any?
I read DC and I read Marvel comics when I was a kid, but I don't that character I don't remember. But yeah, and the first round of episodes that the first episodes that I did, they had him in this garb that was kind of ancient warrior ish garb, and then they decided that they wanted to go make him a little bit more, update him a little bit, so that when I came back into the other episodes, they had changed his look, which I liked a lot. I liked the other one was kind of fun, but it was really bulky and hard to move around in. Mm-hmm. But the other thing that the way that the other change, I really liked it a lot.
Yeah, I've caught a couple episodes, and the CGI is a little excessive, but it works for that kind of show.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry to
cool.
keep this back and forth. I'm trying to get myself centered.
No, it's okay, and it's cool seeing you as a villain again. Because we're used to seeing you as the authority figure, so it's kind of refreshing.
It was fun getting crazy again. It was like it's once again it's all over the top, and it's all like chewing scenery but it's it's what they wanted for the characters, so it's and I can do it. I can chew some damn scenery. So yeah.
Very cool. And I know you talked briefly earlier about Access Sally, but is that any idea when we can see that?
I don't know. Yeah.
Hopefully it gets a theatrical, next year at some point.
I hope it gets out. It was a lot of fun. It was originally I had a friend of mine who was working on it. Had called up and said that they had one day role for a witness on the witness, in this trial, and asked me if I'd be interested in coming down to Puerto Rico to do it. And I said, no, I just don't. I'm just not doing one day things anymore. He said, well, it's with Al Pacino. He's going to be cross-examining you. And I said, I love Al Pacino, but I don't want to come down there for one day. So I got a call from my agents maybe about an hour later, maybe 2 hours later, and they said was this role on this movie, Access Sally, it's shooting in Puerto Rico with Al Pacino. I said, yeah, I said, I already turned it down. And they were like, what? And I said, it was 1 day work. And they go, no, that's not the role that you're being offered. And I was like, what am I being offered? And they said, well, you'll be playing the prosecuting attorney opposite Al Pacino. So I got to play this lawyer and just go to town in the courtroom with Al Pacino, and it was pretty special. It was pretty special. He was so sweet and so kind and amazing to watch. I mean, the man riffs. And then I started riffing with him, and he stopped and turned around, looked at me, and a good repartee, you know. So I was in heaven, man. It was so cool. I said, "Are you okay with that?" And he goes, "I love it." You know, so
that's great. I remember me saying it refreshed your love of acting after you did that.
It really did, because before that I was like, you know, it was waning. You know, I was losing my energy. I felt like I was done, and then I went down and did that with him, and it was like, man, it just recharged me.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Well, we look forward to hearing more about that. Is there any other projects you want to mention that you have coming up that you can talk about? I know Walker was announced.
Walker's announced is another one that I can't talk about.
Right. So Walker, you're playing Jared Padalecki's dad in a reboot of Walker Texas Ranger.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that should be fun.
Yeah. No, it's going to be a gas. I was just texting back and forth with Jared, and I'm excited to get down to Austin. That's because, once again, full circle. That's where I really started acting. I started doing theater in Austin, and then now I'm going back to do a series. So it's pretty sweet.
That's going to have to be the name of your autobiography when you write it. Full circle.
Full circle.
Yeah, because you're going to have to write an autobiography, Matt. You have too many good stories.
I'm lazy, man. You know I'm too lazy.
Yeah, everybody says that, and then they write it and it sells out. So, but you left social media recently.
This boy's lazy.
I'll help you write it. You've got some great stories. Well, you left social media recently, but or not recently, a couple of years ago. But is there any other way fans can keep track of what you're doing?
Not really. I mean, I think I have an Instagram account that is still active. I don't do anything on it.
Mm-hmm.
I just social media is to me one of the most unsocial platforms.
Yeah, it is.
Existence, and it's just I can't go on it and just look at the vitriol and hate that is spewed by,
especially now. So I don't blame you, but I guess fans can just look for you on Google for news, or follow Mitch's Pileggi's.
Follow Mitch's Pileggi's. Yeah, they're a great group. I love them.
Yeah, they're pretty good with keeping everybody updated. Yeah. Of course, I have to ask about the conventions because that's how we met. I know you enjoy attending conventions, but do you prefer horror cons or comic cons?
I think I prefer the horror cons, because those people are there for a specific reason. They know. I mean, I know who they are. And I know what their interests are, and when you get into Comic Cons, it's just kind of it covers so many different areas that it's not. And usually the horror cons are more intimate, and you can spend more time with the people that come to the table, and you can give them their money's worth, which I think they deserve. And that's one of the things that I really try to make sure happens when I do cons is that each person that I come in contact with, I want them to feel like they've I want to give them just a little piece of me, and that they can remember, spend some time with them, and give them a memory. It's like
yeah, well, that's great, because everybody that meets you raves about you.
What's that?
I said that's great, because everybody that meets you raves about you, and remembers the experience, and you can't say that about many people.
it's just such a weird thing. It's like, it's like, oh, I want to give somebody a memory of me, and it's like, it makes me feel weird to think.
Well, hopefully things get safer and we can go back to doing some cons next year.
Yeah, I love to travel. I love hanging with you guys, and you, Dom, you got a great group of people that work with you, and I love them all, and I miss them a lot. And I just, I love the the fans that I get to meet at the cons, and I love to be a fanboy myself, and see people that I meet people that I like. Carrie Fisher, it was like that was a pretty special moment.
Yeah.
Then the fact that she was so flirtatious with me was extra special. So,
yeah, and you got a funny moment with Patrick Stewart too. I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah. It was funny because we were in Australia, and we were doing a con over there, and his table was right next to mine. I shouldn't tell this. Maybe I should.
Yeah. It's kind of a behind the scenes thing, but anyway, I'm going to wrap up with the last question.
He was very nice. It was just it was a weird moment.
It was kind of had to been there moment. Yeah. Well, I'm going to wrap up with the last question that I ask everybody that I talk to. If you could pick I know it's cliche, but I always like hearing the answers. If you could pick a dream director to be directed by, and a dream co-star to be with you as a lead, who would they be?
You're making me think, Tom.
People I know. There have to be people alive.
I'm lazy. I don't like thinking. Just thinking stuff is hard. I don't know. To be honest, I'm really not that knowledgeable about about directors.
I can see you being directed by Clint Eastwood. I can see you guys getting along.
Yeah, that'd be a hoot. I don't know. I honestly can't answer the question.
Okay. Who's like your go-to actor? Like if you say, if you see his name and that he's in a film or her name, you say, oh, I have to watch that. Do you have any actors like that?
Stanley Tucci.
There you go. Stanley Tucci.
I love Stanley Tucci, and I got to meet him at a con, and it was like, I think he's amazing. I mean, I think the things that he does are just phenomenal. But it was funny because we were in the green room, and there was a bunch of the Marvel actors were there, and he was there, and and he was talking, and David was there, so he was talking to David, and David said, he introduced me to him, and so I started to talk to him about an incident that had happened, and somebody had come in, somebody kind of butted in. I won't say who it was, but they butted in and kind of like to get his attention, and he paid it, he answered the question, and then I was just kind of standing there like, oh well, but he finished with them, and then he turned around and looked at me, and he goes, and he kind of nodded like, go ahead, continue like with the story, and I was like going, whoa. So I really appreciated the fact that he didn't just blow me off, and he was interested in what I had to say. I just think he's absolutely amazing.
Right. So we're throwing that out there in the universe now. Mitch and Stanley Tucci in the next Clint Eastwood movie. or he directs too, doesn't he? Stanley Tucci.
He does everything, man. The guy's phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to see you do more comedy because a lot of people don't realize how funny you are until they get to know you. Because you play all these intimidating characters. Hilarious. So I'd like to see you do some comedy, but
it's hard. Comedy is so hard, man. It's so much harder than drama is, and unless the writing is really good or you have just an amazingly firm grasp on whatever character you've done, it's hard stuff. It's really, really hard to do. I found doing comedy on stage was a lot easier than doing it in front of a camera.
Right.
I did a number of comedies on stage, and I felt like I was successful with it.
Yeah. Well, we have a few. We're going to wrap up with a few viewer questions. There's only a couple here, mostly people commenting. Cortland says Stanley Tucci makes everything. She likes Stanley Tucci as well. We've got some Pileggis coming in. Sarah Blair says we all know X-Files is the best. Let's see if there's any questions.
X-Fest.
Yeah. Would you rather be the good guy or the bad guy?
It's fun playing both. I mean, it's because I played bad guys for so long, and then I started playing good guys, and it was a nice change. But then I played good guys for a long time, and then when I got to play bad guys again, I was like, yeah, I remember this. So it's always a trip to be able to play something else. And
Yeah.
thank you, Criminal Minds. That's one of my favorite roles that I've ever done. That I can watch. I don't have any problem watching that. And I watch it with my daughter sometimes, and she cries every time at the end of it.
Yeah. Dita. Who's Dita?
Dita.
She's asking who your favorite
Mita?
DC superhero.
Mita or Dita? No, it's not Mita. It's Dita. DC, favorite DC superhero? Probably Superman. Yeah.
Juan says a big hug from City of Rango in the center of Chile. Thanks for all these years. I love the Mitch character. Oh, Mick character in Sons of Anarchy.
Well, thank you, Juan. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I'd love to come visit your country someday. I've heard wonderful things about Chile.
Yeah. And can you name a couple of your favorite co-stars from the X-Files?
Besides X-Files?
Co-stars ever besides X-Files?
Well, Judith Light. Absolutely. God, it's like my mind's blank when you ask me this, because I've been doing this for over 40 years, almost 40 years. Return of the Living Dead Part 2, Sarge. That's so funny.
And I guess they're talking about Stargate. Did you get to keep the spaceship?
No, damn it.
You don't have that in your storage shed?
Huh?
You don't have that in your storage shed?
Yeah, no, I was going to try to tear a piece off my chair, but I never did.
Yeah, well, I think that's all the questions. Looking now, it's mostly just comments. I don't really see any other questions here. Yeah.
Oh, you would, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
I think you'd love this internet thing.
All right, Mitch. Well, it's always great talking to you. I want to thank you for coming on and spending time, and hopefully I get to see you in person soon.
I hope so. I miss you, dude.
Yep. And all righty. Well, we'll see you in a little bit in Zoom.
All right.
Thanks, Mitch.
Take care. Bye.
Great guy. Thanks so much, Mitch, for your generous time. It's always great talking to you. We always have fun conversations. If you'd like your own conversation with Mitch, you can go to fullempirepromotions.com right now and book your Zoom session. We'll leave those on sale for about 10 more minutes. You'll get 5 minutes to talk with Mitch about whatever you'd like, and have some fun. So thanks so much again to everybody who watched. Join us tomorrow. We'll be back at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Billy Zane. So thanks so much, everyone, and see you next time.